Hey everyone, welcome to Design, Create, Inspire. If this is your first time with me, hello, welcome. My name is Bryn Young. I am a licensed architect here in California. And today I want to talk to you all about that basically, how to become a licensed architect in California, specifically all about the CSE, the California Supplemental exam. So, this is a question I get asked quite often because a lot of people have found me through my ARE video. So, if you haven't checked that out and you are still in the ARE process, you could definitely go check that out on YouTube, of course. I talk about how I got through the exams, how I dealt with failing. I have a great resource guide for all my recommendations for like paid sources, free resources, PDFs, all the goods. So this is going to be kind of similar, kind of like a piggyback on that. So once you are done with the AREs and you are ready to take that final supplemental exam to be licensed in California, this is the info you need. So like that video, I am going to give you sort of like the basics. I'm not really going into the specifics of what the exam covers because I think that there are a lot of resources out there that you can kind of find that. Not as much with the CSE. So the CSE, I'm definitely going to come out probably, hopefully, definitely, probably, hopefully, come out with another video that does go into a little bit more about what's on the exam in terms of what to study for. But I did put together another reference guide or resource guide for the CSE that has links, PDFs, where to go to find more information. So let's just dive right into this. So once you are done with your AREs, it's all the celebrating and it's a huge accomplishment. However, you still can't legally call yourself a licensed architect. In most states, but especially in California, you have to take a supplemental exam. Now in California, our supplemental exam, in my opinion, is just about as hard as the regular architecture exams, the NCARBS AREs. They are poorly worded like the AREs. They are long and tedious, and the studying is strenuous. So I at first didn't really know what to expect. I thought maybe I would come in here and it would be, like a little simple state exam. It's definitely just as intense as the AREs. So continue with whatever helped you pass those to get you through this. So I'm going to give you some information, but you can also go to the blog post associated with this because that's where you can find all my links, my like checklists and everything like that. But what you're going to want to do first when you, I'm going to kind of jump around. So before you even start studying, you're going to do the following. One, you're going to download the handbook. Now, I'm warning you now, the handbook and the test prep that they call it and all this stuff is much less pretty than what you get for the AREs. It honestly all looks like code. And so it's so boring. It's not visual. It's real basic. It has the information, but it's not exciting. But you're still going to want the information. So you're going to want to go download that handbook. And I'll have links again for these items. Then number 2, you're going to want to download their test prep. Again, their test prep is like real basic. Do not just study that test prep. You will fail, I'm sure. So go through these steps, but know that they're not like take one step only. And you should know this if you've passed all your AREs because it's a culmination of like a bunch of things. Number 3, download my resource guide. I have all the links, PDFs, all that information for the different like codes, the different contracts, CAB, California Architecture Board, they also have a resource guide, and I include all of their resources in mine plus some. So you can go to either one. I have links for them, but I recommend downloading mine just because it's free and it has a couple other resources, including like infographics that I have created and whatnot. So you can find that. I'll link, of course. Then you want to read, and this is from CAB as well, reading about prepping and taking the CSE. Again, this is just kind of like to prepare yourself. It's not going to be your study guide, but it's just to prepare yourself. Now, for actually studying and getting through it and having a resource that you can actually use as your book of studying, I highly recommend the Ultimate Whole Enchilada. It's quite the name, and if you Google like Ultimate Whole Enchilada, you're definitely going to get a lot of recipes, probably some delicious ones. But I link the actual. It's like CSE examprep.com or something like that. I have it linked. But you're going to want to purchase that. I think it's about $180 at the time of this recording. 100% worth it. It's a full-on study guide. There's audio tapes, which I listened to when I was in the car or when I was working out, just like when I was doing other things. It has practice exams, practice quizzes, all this stuff. When you go into the California Architects Board test prep, where it shows you what exactly is on the exam, it's super basic. There's task statements and knowledge statements, and they're all within a certain category. Now, I'm going to go into a little bit more about that in a minute, but just trying to tell you that if you're just reading those to study, it's so surface level, and what the whole Ultimate Whole Enchilada does is it dives deep into each knowledge statement. So then after purchase that, and then that will really help you get through it. And also, there's not a whole lot out there for CSE exam prep. This has kind of been around for a while, and it's one of the top leading ones. I want to develop one, but I don't have the time right now. One day. Hopefully at least this will kind of help people a little bit get to where they need to go, because I feel like there's so many questions, and it's also arbitrary when you just go on the website. Like, even how do you sign up is confusing. So hopefully this at least helps you. But then also Designer Hacks just came out recently, probably like within, I think 2020, came out with a CSE exam bundle. So I definitely highly recommended that. I used Designer Hacks throughout all my AREs, and I loved them. They're really simple in terms of like you can choose how many questions you want on the exam, the practice exam. So if I just wanted like a quick refresher, I could do a 10-question exam. They have the same for CSE. So I highly recommend that. It's $39. So cheap. I don't get paid to recommend any of these. These are just what worked for me. So the basics of the CSE. I'm mainly just going to talk about what the categories are, what it means by task statement, knowledge statement, how long does it take, how is the test broken up, how do you schedule an exam, what do you do if you fail, that sort of thing. So again, it's just kind of the basics, but I've seen so many questions come up about the basics that I think a video for it is super important. So the basic categories, there's 4 categories on the exam. There's general practice, which makes up 14%, and these percentages are roughly 14% of the exam. There's programming design, which makes up about 30% of the exam. 36%. So that's kind of the bulk, programming and design. Then there's development and documentation. That's 30%. So another pretty big bulk part of it. And then there's bidding and construction, which is 20%. So you'll see some similarities between that and the AREs. It's just a little bit more condensed in certain areas, and the topics are a little different than the AREs because it's a much more California based. So there's a lot of emphasis on the agencies. So what parts of the government or what parts of the California agencies are part of what part of the project. Again, I'm not going to go too deep into the specifics of what's on the exam. I'm going to do another one a little bit more about that because it just is dense. But sorry, there are children screaming outside my door. Sorry about that. You can hear them. Anyways, but it's a lot more specific to California, although there are some general things that you will have seen on the AREs. There won't be like specific calculations. There's structural questions, but I don't remember doing calculations. So if that's helpful. So the questions, there's 100 multiple choice questions. You're going to get 2 project scenarios and a set of just basic multiple choice questions. So the way it's set up is you have, it's a little old school. When you walk into the testing center, they will actually physically hand you a set of basically 11 by 17 construction documents for the project scenario. So they're not digital. So you have to carry those in and then you use those for your project scenario. Now, super important. Make sure the questions that they're asking for that specific project scenario match the project scenario in your book. Because there, I think, are 2 or 3 different case studies or construction documents in the booklet. And you need to make sure that whatever one they're asking you about at that time will be the one. So I learned the hard way. I got in there, my nerves were all, firing. I sat down, I pressed start, and then of course, you press start and you're like, okay, let's go. So I open it up, I quickly read, made some notes for the project scenario, read the first question. Okay, got it. Next question. Okay, I'm like trying to find information in the case study. Like it just doesn't seem like totally on it. I guess that makes sense. And I think I got halfway done with the project scenario, the first one, and I'm like, something isn't right here. And I looked back and I was using the wrong case study, which I was able to finish. I was able to go back, finish on time. 1 or 2 of the questions were more a generalized project scenario type situation. So I was, it wasn't terrible, but it threw me off. Not a good way to start. It just, it started off not the most positive. So make sure that those are in line. Then once you are done with the 2 different project scenarios, you'll go to multiple choice, which similar to the AREs, it's just your standard. There's 1 answer per question. There's not like trick questions. I mean, some of them are really poorly worded that it's hard to figure it out, and it kind of seems like 2 right answers, but there will be a right answer. So how is the test timed? You have 3.5 hours to complete the exam. Now, there's a couple differences between the CSE and the ARE. With the CSE, you have 3 different components to the exam. You have the 2 project scenarios and then the multiple choice, but they each have their own individual time. So when you press start, you do project scenario 1, and you have a certain amount of time for that. Once that time is out, you are done with project scenario 1. You can't ever go back to it, and it automatically starts the time for the next one. So for one of the project scenarios, I just finished right in time. And I think they might do this on purpose because I've heard this with other test takers, that there's one that you finish like just in time. I didn't have any time to go back and review any questions or anything. And then it automatically goes into the second project scenario, it's frustrating because you can't take a break, take a mental break, and then press start. It's like, okay, you're going. So then it goes into project scenario 2. I believe it was this one that I had a little bit more time to go back and check a couple answers, but it wasn't a lot. The case studies or the project scenarios, however you want to call them, they definitely move pretty quickly. And then again, once that one is done, it goes automatically into the multiple choice. There is no scheduled break, and they don't give you any option for a break. With that said, the multiple choice time is a little bit longer, so I definitely had time to go back and review all my questions. And so if you really had to, I would say you could probably take a break during that multiple choice time, but you do eat away at your time. So it's kind of like a hard thing. And I can't even remember now if I took a break. I want to say I did take a break during the multiple choice, but I must have been done with enough time to know I could review and like go do it real quick. So there is possibly an option during the multiple choice. Ideally, if you can, try to go to the bathroom, get a snack, do all those things beforehand, take those 3.5 hours and just focus and knock it out. So that is harder. I think it adds a little bit more pressure to the exam, but it's how it is. And so, yeah. Okay, so how to schedule the exam. This is one question that I see a lot because it is very confusing. There's no application on CAB's website to schedule the exam. Basically, once you are done with your all your eligibility requirements, they will contact you. They'll send you a letter with an application saying, hey, we've gotten all this information. You are eligible to start taking the exam. It must have been after I was done with the AREs. Now, with that said, I would recommend reaching out to them. It doesn't hurt. I think it probably expedites it a little bit, and it also just helps make sure that there's not anything outstanding. When I first received my letter, I think it was after I finished the AREs, and it told me I was ineligible because I didn't have enough education requirements. It said I was missing like 3 years or 5 years or I don't know, something. And at first, of course, I was like, wait, what? Like, I'm finally here and I'm not eligible? What do you mean? Like, how can this be? But I looked into it and they didn't have my undergrad transcripts. I had those on my NCARB account, but they weren't verified. I hadn't actually gone through my undergrad, gotten my official transcript. So I just went on there, did the official transcripts, and then I think I reached back out to them or something like that. It's all kind of weird how they do it. It's kind of feels old school. It's not digital. It's all paper mail, which makes things definitely go slower. But I have found that they are pretty responsive. So definitely email them or call them if you do have questions, and hopefully they'll help streamline it a little bit. So you have to show all your eligibility, or basically they'll see all your eligibility. And I have that written down in the blog post of what exactly you need to be eligible. You probably know if you've gone through the AREs. There's ways to go through, take it without going through the AREs too. So definitely go check that and see how that works. So they'll automatically send you the application. You fill out the application, you fill out or you mail them a check, and then they send that information over to the testing center. So the testing is done through PSI, and you cannot schedule your exam until CAB has sent your eligibility. So you have to go through that whole process in order to just schedule your exam. But once they have sent that over, you go on to PSI, you sign up, you schedule, and then you go take your exam. And, once you're taking the exam, you can go check their website, what exactly is needed. It's similar, though, to taking the AREs. You just need a government issued ID. They may be doing fingerprints now. I can't remember if that's just for the AREs or not, but, they'll take a photo, do the whole thing. It seemed a little bit more lax than taking the AREs, but it was still, your typical testing experience. So when do you find out the results? You find out the results as soon as you are done. It is not on the computer screen like it is through the AREs. You get to stand in a room while they print it out and hand it to you. I think I waited till I was in the hallway or outside, I think in the hallway, to actually read the results because I didn't really want to read it in front of a whole group of people. But oh my gosh, especially being your last exam, it's pretty adrenaline. I don't know. It's just intense. So, but yeah, so you find out right away. What they'll do is they'll print it out, and it'll say, congratulations, and then it'll give you information. Then you have to send another check to CAB because, of course, we're always paying money. And you send that off to them, and then they will send you all your licensing items, like your license number and all that stuff. If you fail the exam, they will print out another application so that you fill out the application, and then you send another check so that you can take the exam again. So either way, you get a printout. And if you fail, how long do you have to wait until you can retake? 90 days. So it's a little bit longer than AREs. Now, I learned kind of the hard way how to reschedule a exam because it's really confusing. So in my experience, because I did fail my first exam, which if you haven't heard my failing experience, go listen to the ARE because my video on the AREs, because I talk about the process of failing and how it's a blow, but I get it. And I don't think it makes me any less of an architect now. I think that it makes me understand the information even that much better. So if you do fail and you're having a hard time with it and you haven't watched my other video, go watch it just for some moral support on failing. Anyways, so in my experience, I had to wait 90 days before I could even schedule the next exam. And this was really annoying because I think I would have scheduled my next exam for like right at 90 days because that's 3 months. That's plenty of time to restudy, take it again. But because I had to wait that 90 days to even be able to schedule it, I wasn't able to schedule it right away. With that said, 90 days for me was up at the end of May 2020. So right at kind of the mid-pandemic peak of everything shutting down. Some of the PSI testing facilities were starting to open up, but it wasn't enough. So the time to take the exams was like months out that I could schedule it. So it kind of threw it off. Also for me, if I can't just schedule it right away, it's easier for me to put it off. So it just kind of threw things off. So I ended up taking it 6 months after I failed the first time. Kind of because of the scheduling, kind of because it was something I kept putting off because I couldn't schedule it right away. So if you can't schedule it right away, that is why you have to wait the 90 days to even do that. I do recommend getting all the information over to CAB though as soon as possible, just so that they have it. You're not waiting on any, logistical admin issues. You have the check, you have everything over to them. So as soon as it's ready, you can schedule your exam. So that is pretty much it. And then if you pass, they will print out a thing I said, and they'll send you all your stuff. You can, you get your license number, which is very exciting. You don't need a physical stamp. They do give you all the stamp information on the website, and I have some of that in my post. I also have a free Illustrator file download that you can download and customize your own stamp. Everything's done digital these days, so you just put those on your plans and you are officially a licensed architect. They do say, even when you receive your pass and you walk out that door, you still can't legally call yourself an architect until you receive those papers confirming it. But of course, that's just like the logistical things. I think at that point you can definitely celebrate. It's very exciting. It's a long process. It takes a lot of perseverance, and time and money, and it's not for the faint of heart. So I commend anyone who has gone through it and who is in the process of going through it, and know that you are so, so close. It's very exciting. So if you have specific questions, definitely reach out. Again, I would love to make another video more about like the types of things that are on the exam. Of course, generalized. I'm not giving away anything that's on the exam. I just, talk about it a little bit. But head over to my links that I have. I have lots of resources for you guys. We are almost there. So good luck. Check out any of my other videos and podcast episodes. I have a lot of information that will be helpful for you as you move into this journey of being licensed. Congratulations. All right, guys, I will see you next week. Talk to you later. Bye.